Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvolt, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is as Flat as the Earth. Another Burn Fat Until My Stomach Is as Flat as the Earth. I think we've got a few trolls trying to join as penguins. We'll have to maybe sort that out. Chow Young Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Owen Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin', Henrik86, Jaronism, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Matt, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Qatar Craig, Renee, Sally Ballis, Silver Umbrella, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app, theflatearthchannel.com, Windrider, Tina Baker, Tom Hawkins, and did I miss anybody? Uncle Bob, I think I got a new one. I think that's it. Thank you very much to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. The Real Gabster, yes, I knew there was one more. Thank you very much once again to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a few people in both Discord and G+, so I will raise the mic on both of them, and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for the next live show.
Discord channel too.
Yeah, it's like a flat Earth Discord channel.
But he's
Calls
not
it Flat Earth
Earther.
Debate and more. That's what he calls it.
But he's not a flat earther.
Yeah, he's a glober, but like the subject is still ball Earth, flat Earth seems to be the hottest thing.
There's only so many things a farmer could do. I
Well,
don't have time. I don't have
there's
time to go to.
There's only 3 Discord channels I like to hang around. It's Gem Pandas, Flat Earth 247, and this one that I'm in with Nathan Oakley show.
Yeah, well, I've had my own battles with Flat Earth 247 with their continual begging the question fallacy, hour after hour argument instead of ending it quick. Unneeded suffering going on.
Well, you got the mute button on this server, so you can control the argument if you want.
I'm not into actually doing that too much. I've done it to Zanuck a few times because he just won't stop talking, but you got to get pretty bad for me to do something like that.
Oh. I actually pass around the mute button on my server.
It's necessary because they just ramble on.
Yeah, if there's 2 people that are rambling on and talking over each other, I'll like give the mute button to one of them. I'll pick a side, and then at least one person can like not be overtalked, so to say, and that kind of brings things more calm.
Oh, did you listen to yesterday's show?
Over here?
Yeah.
Kind of. I forget what it was about already.
Well, it was Unorthodox came on.
Oh yeah, Unorthodox. That's right.
I mean, classic. He contradicts himself. He begs the question and then contradicts himself with his own words. So he had 2 positions. It's over right there. But guess what? It continued and continued. Because Tony goes, "Can I play with him? Can I play with him?" I love begging the question. Can I play with him? It's like I'm dying here.
Yeah, but sometimes, like, because we got the arguments down pat so well, sometimes people want to entertain some things just to see if they can corner them from another angle.
And he did. And it took a while, but then he got him again. It's like, how many times do you want to stab a dead person? It's like some flat earthers would volunteer to do mouth to mouth on dead people. Literally.
Well,
I mean, if the goal is to present a good argument so that the other side could see it and concede, and then possibly bring up another argument, but not the same one after it's been defeated and conceded. Yes, that's good because then you just take them out one at a time. But if the goal is to keep talking to people who won't concede, I'm not into that. I just get tired of it, especially when there's a line that's been reached that the audience knows, and even the person debating knows he's double spoke.
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, if I'm losing a battle in a conversation, but I know I still am right, at least I have a feeling I'm right, but I'm losing the battle because I can't phrase my comebacks good. At least I waved the white flag, or I think I would, and say, look, I really believe I'm right. I don't have good arguments for your last question. Can you give me a day or two and I'll come back? I need to do a little more research, but I have another argument that I do feel confident with. Can we go on that for the time being? Wow, what a breath of fresh air to have someone be honest like that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, well, we don't have that, do we? We have trolls.
Well, how do I say it? Like, it really does seem like they really believe what they say, in the sense it's like, I know it's easy to want to say like, oh, they're shows or something like that, but like when you really think about it, it's like this is actually
Well,
possible for people to believe this stuff. It's like,
no, they do. They do. I'm not saying they don't. But then when given a sound rebuttal, and they even, like, for example, unorthodox, yesterday, he was not going to allow gas to behave like gas. If he would just allow gas to behave like gas, his argument died from the beginning.
okay, so
So what he did was he figured the only way to keep his side going was to say things that not only violated what was happening just by observation and the books written on the subject on both sides. He decided to negate how gas behaves. Well, when you negate how gas behaves, where do you start then about gases? So he
Don't.
contradicted himself
You
twice,
don't.
three times.
It's called intellectual dishonesty,
Yes.
and they set out their arguments in an understanding that they are already in the winning position. So when you give them this rebuttal that you're describing that proves them to be incorrect, that causes pain, mental pain. Usually they lash out with ad hominem attacks in response to your rebuttal.
and how should we respond after that?
You want me to
That's
answer?
up to you. For me, that's the end of the argument. So yesterday, I think my words were right. It's time for you to leave. You know, I don't want to go round and round and round and round in circles indefinitely. I don't know who's making that noise. Is it you, 10th?
I was just turning a page, but I won't turn it anymore.
We can hear it.
My gosh, that's great.
You know, at the end of the argument, at the point where he starts going round and round in circles, just asserting the same thing as a response, i.e., the original claim, that for me is the end of the argument. I'm happy to get rid of them at that point. Yesterday, Anthony wanted a piece of him too, so I reluctantly went, okay, fine, you know, toy with him. But they don't know when they're beat. That's the bottom line. Because they're still right. In their mind, they came into the argument right, and even though you've proven them wrong, they're still right. Now, while that's annoying, it's much more cognitively painful for them than it is annoying for us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So
variations. There's variations of that cognitive dissonance. Some people say, you're right. I made a mistake there, and they try to regroup and rephrase, and then that being the most kindest, very good understanding of double speak, and okay, I won't double speak. Let me say it another way. That would be a good way to get unstuck and try it another way. But it goes from there to the absurd. And that's what we seem to get more, is that other end of that bar, the absurd part, where they don't even admit the double speak when they double spoke.
Yeah, like I say, very annoying.
Nathan, you have a really good way of like kind of like seeing things in a sense and like summarizing it very well.
Just sat here doing it a long time, that's all that is.
Like, I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but I'm just like, that is interesting. Like, kind of makes me think like that. Like, it's an interesting observation you make.
Nathan listens to their words.
Yeah, he said he's a good listener. I remember him saying that one time.
Are good at listening. It's not necessarily that they'll perceive it that way, because half the time they'll accuse you of censoring them when they've managed to make their point quite concisely, and then you take it apart and they want to talk continually and say you're censoring me from talking through your rebuttal. It's like, no, I have listened to what you've actually said. Yeah, I hadn't realised either that I was actually listening to people. Generally speaking, you hear a lot of noise with people saying, no, he's the one censoring people, he's the one muting people, is normally the argument. So in the last couple of days, maybe a week, I thought, these wankers that say such things, I'll challenge them when they come in the comments. So I've sat in my after show of an evening, thought, okay, whoever comes in is like, come and debate me on this neutral platform. I'm like, I'm here now, let's debate, let's do it, in the chat. And you can have absolutely no accusations of censorship when it's a chat. Unless, of course, you remove all the comments, as Jem Panda did when I tried to ask Danny Faulkner how you can have gas pressure without a container. But that's a side issue. You know, that's a on-topic question that they can't answer, so obviously that needs censorship. But, you know, Sean Hawkins is a classic example. You know, debate me on a neutral platform. Well, let's debate now in chat. Let's see if you understand the Black Swan argument as it's on the table. And he didn't. You know, and it's highly embarrassing for them when they can't blame anything. They just run away from the chat. Come back 20 minutes later, hopefully everyone's forgotten how stupid I looked, and I just point it out indefinitely, laughing at them, quoting them. And they can't blame a mute button.
That's what happened with Zanuck that first time I ever went on Discord. Got totally beat up here on this show, on Coriolis. Then I said, I think I'll try Discord. Everyone talks about it. So I went on Discord, and he was there, arguing the same point. He got pummeled here. So I decided, I can't take this. So I jumped in, had a big argument with him. Righteous, you were there. So I said, you just got bloodied, beat up, just embarrassed as heck an hour ago, and you're over here tossing the same argument from the same position. Have you no shame?
Yeah,
No,
this
they
happens,
don't.
but I just let others practice handling the arguments. So I just sit in the background and see how others dismantle the argument.
But yes, you're correct.
Well,
have you no shame? That's the reality of it. They don't have any shame. They're more than happy to be proven wrong, demonstrated to be incorrect, and then 10 minutes later make out like it hasn't even happened.
Like yesterday with Unorthodox, he kept talking about weight. And you said, well, that's a vector of down that you're talking about. What about the vector of up? How the gases go up? And so it's like they're produced at the ground level, so they're going to go up. You're refusing to talk about the up part. When it bounces upwards, as it bounces off itself and other things.
That's why they
I'm
don't
not sure
concede. That's why they don't concede. So, providing they don't concede and they just circle round and round and round, reasserting the original claim. As I say, they've come in with the firm belief that their claim is right regardless of what we say. So when you prove them wrong, they just reassert the claim, because the claim is right. That's how they're cognitively wired. I'm coming into this with proof of my whatever, curve, sphericity, axial rotation, whatever. Vacuum that's the sky. Anyway, once they've gone round and round 4 or 5 times and not conceded, much to your and my frustration and, like I declared earlier, cognitive pain, they can go elsewhere, having not conceded it, saying, well, I was still right with my original assertion, because I asserted it 16 times without concession.
10th man, your mic like picks up like a whistling sound every now and then, very faintly.
All right, let me plug it in, plug it out again. Sorry.
I was gonna say that how do you say the gas is being produced at the ground level? I don't think that's that strong of an argument. Let's say, like, what do you guys think? Like,
I don't know what you mean when you say argument. It's just a fact of life.
okay, how do I word it else? How else do I word it? Well, I guess it's. I don't think it's a good enough explanation. Let's say.
Start again. What's it not a good explanation for? What's the question?
The gas is being produced at the ground, and that's why at the ground it's the most densest, or the most gases, or you know what I mean.
That
How
is
about the illustration of the mountaintop? Give him that one, Nathan.
Well, what's wrong with it? I'm sure he's heard it. What's wrong with it? Or why isn't it a good enough explanation?
I don't think it's a good explanation for why there's the most gas at the ground level. I think some of the other variables out there could be more dominant than this one.
Like
I mean, this could be one of them, but I think it's a really weak one if it is.
Like what? What are the variables?
It just doesn't seem like... Because if there's a container and it's always being produced at the ground, and it eventually does go up, it'll have to come down again, right? If it hits a container.
Phase change?
It cycles.
Cold?
It cycles. What do you think
It
clouds
cycles?
are?
Okay.
Hold on, 10th.
Okay,
What do you think?
I understand the cycle, but...
So it goes up, turns into clouds, eventually gets too dense, and then falls back down again. So it cycles. Upon reaching a certain density, it can't maintain its position up high as a gas. So it comes back down as rain, completing the cycle. But the gas itself is produced, all of them are produced right here on the ground. So if they're not being produced, if I look, 45 degrees up at the sky, well, I'm not looking at anything that's producing gas. I'm looking at an empty space. Still low to the ground. Maybe I'm looking 100 meters above the ground. I'm still looking at the sky, but I'm only tilting my head up a little bit, And I'm looking, 10 meters, 100 meters, doesn't matter. Very low, but still there's no gas being produced there. Well, if I make an analogy with a kettle, and the kettle's the equivalent of all of the animals and all of the, all of the vegetation, anything that's producing gas. Yeah. If my equivalent of that is just a kettle, and I boil the kettle at the ground level, well, a certain amount of the particulates are going to make their way right up really, really, really high. But they'll be really thin when they get there, like dissipated out very widely, dispersing to try and fill the available container because they're all dispersing randomly in all directions. But if I put my finger over the top of the kettle, an inch above it, there's a very high concentration of it right above where it's being produced. So high up, very thin because it's dissipated. Very low, very high concentration to the point where it can burn my finger. It's not like it's a poor explanation. That's just is how it is. There's a higher concentration where the gas is produced because it disperses and fills the available volume it has to fill. It's less concentrated higher up. Simple.
To your credit, you explained it really nicely this time.
Righteous, do me a favor. Go on Master B while Adam chimes in here and put up my pictures yesterday. It's not too far up from the bottom. I have the Earth cycles. You'll see it. It's right under the Danny Faulkner coat. I want to go through that while we... Hey, Adam.
Good afternoon, gents. You all right, Tim? All right, right.
Yeah, you did good yesterday, by the way, on the show.
Where was that?
No, with Unorthodox, explain to him about gas.
God, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got to give Adam some kudos. So you're rapidly becoming one of the best guests, Adam. I've got to be honest. I love you. You're fantastic. So at the end of yesterday's Uncut and After show, you said, we know that the elasticity or the elastic collisions, what was the term you used for the gas?
Yeah, so in an elastic gas collision, yeah, so they head off with what...
I'm going to get the terminology right. In an elastic gas collision, there is no decrease in energy in a downward vector versus upward vector. So they're going equally fast after the collision, after this elastic gas collision.
What they come in with they go out with pretty much. There's a slight sometimes minor sharing of temperature in that very small moment, but very difficult because the collisions are so rapid that they just go off, and the only real difference is the angle at which they then travel based on the collision. But there's no difference in the collision in the speed after the collision. They go in with what they come out with what they go in with.
Right. In other words, this aggregate down, which was the thing I wasn't really addressing, to be fair, because I hadn't overtly stated what you've just stated because I didn't know how to phrase it so beautifully. But yeah, the elastic collision of these gas particles is such that they don't lose any energy after the collision. They're just going off in the exact same speed that they collided with, in both directions, up and down, or whatever angle they've struck each other at, which might vary depending on the angle they strike each other at, but ultimately the overall energy and speed that they have when they collide is maintained in whatever direction they travel in after they've collided.
Yeah. I will always
Yeah.
understood it.
Hey, right, just go back to that first one, the water cycle.
But just to clarify, because what they're trying to do yesterday was what he was trying to do was constantly say the term weight. And like I say, it's a conceptual thing in this case that if you look up in Quora, anything that's weight is mass plus an applied gravitational field. And they're not able to demonstrate weight in the gas molecule because it does go always up. Yeah. But they're saying because the gas molecules have mass by definition, and because they're on the Earth, which has got a gravitational field, therefore they have to have weight by definition. But it requires the presupposition that gravity is what creates weight. So they can't prove it. It's just a logical extrapolation if you believe you live on a ball with gravity.
Yeah, and in analogy, they will also declare that. They'll say, well, the gas particle's just like a ball, which is what he said, unorthodox said. So they attribute this downward vector like a mass has got. And the way he gets to that with the gas is he crams it all into a container, giving it what you called semi-fluid-like properties, because you've got a contained amount of them, and the amount that you would measure when it's done in that way would be the amount of pressure. That will give you the amount of collisions with the walls of the container. Now, you can also, if you cram a load of gas into a container, make the gas container weigh more because you've got more particulates inside the container. Ergo, it will weigh more. But upon releasing the valve or whatever it is keeping the gas in there, it will disperse out of the container that you've just weighed in all directions. And the only value that will remain constant, regardless if it's contained in that container or dissipating into a larger container, is pressure, the amount of force it will provide, or the amount of collisions with the walls of the container. So therefore, when you're using gas, you can't weigh it, you measure its pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And then you back calculate its weight based on ideal gas laws, i.e. and Avogadro. So 22.4 litres is 1 mole of gas at most STP. So the only way in which you do it in terms of a gas is you calculate the volume produced, you make an assumption on the standard room temperature, you calculate the pressure, yeah, and from that you backwork the mass, but you never actually measure the mass.
Or to put it another way, you never actually weigh it.
You can't.
Right.
You can't weigh it, can you? It's not weighable. It's not a weighable weight. Weight is
Weight is a bastardization of the relative density that we actually experience, ignoring all parts below a certain scale. So everything else below that scale is attributed this downward vector called gravity. So it's just a bastardization when you use the word weight. When you have something moving, you have presumably something either forced by nature into disequilibrium, like an apple growing. The apple growing up the tree with a thin stalk is teetering on the edge of equilibrium break, or however you phrase that. It's about to return to equilibrium when it drops and has grown out of equilibrium. That's the purpose of that particular plant, so that it can reproduce and grow more. But that disequilibrium and the return from disequilibrium to equilibrium when you have a greater density than the air you're in is the bit that they focus on, as opposed to the things that do the opposite. Things like, I don't know, bloody dandelion that could definitely have a mass attributed to it, but could be drifting way up into the sky on a bloody drifty bit of wind. Or the very air itself that all of these things are falling through with a downward vector. So it's just a bastardization, and you hesitate when you say weight because it's useful, because many of the things we deal with and encounter are on that side of the scale.
Well, chemists like weight because it is a physical, it's things for solids and liquids. But like I said, chemists deal with gases. We don't deal with weight. It's just not an applicable way to quantify it. The question I've got, right, and I don't know the answer, is if they're maybe it's a question for QE. If they're attributing weight as mass times that downward acceleration, and this gas particle is moving up, now it's not necessarily accelerating, but therefore, does it have a weight or does it have a negative weight, which cancels out any supposed applied weight of an opposing molecule going in the other direction?
If you're going to if you're applying an aggregate as he did, then yes, you suddenly got to account for the fact that it's in a minus versus your presumed constant. The gravitational constant would be then in a minus value when you're going up, right? You're working against it. So you've got negative g going upwards if you're going to assume that you're having an aggregate calculated when it's travelling in an upward direction.
That kind of makes sense to me.
Right. Just assume G.
What I mean.
It makes sense if we first allow them to beg the question and assume a bloody force field. Yeah. Then it'll make sense. But we only have that problem because we're assuming this force field, though. You realise?
I'm choking. Sorry.
Hey, Bright, just put up the picture again.
Before you do, I just want to comment on the humour of that situation. So, Adam's very mathematically minded, and he's seen problem and solution in maths, and I've pointed out there is no problem in reality, and he's choked. I just thought that was quite funny.
No, I thought it was good too, because, like you said, only in their force that's really not a force. Now it's space-time bending nonsense. So this force that's not a force, in that world, that negative G was good. I liked it. So here's the pictures. I don't think we need to really comment. So here's the water cycle. Give it about 3 more seconds and go to the next one. Okay, here's the carbon cycle. Just look at the picture. Look at what's up above the ground, where the sun is illustrated to be in the sky. Atmosphere, no. Next one. Okay, here's the nitrogen cycle. That's just a random image pic from the internet. So, all right.
Yeah.
So go to the next one. So now here's altitude, and you can see the bottom is where the gases are created, and as the density and everything and the coldness of the temperatures and everything, you can see it's the gradient. I mean, it's and you can't have any of this without a container to begin with. So
True.
next one. Now this is what I found about how they say what makes up the gases. So whether this is 100% true or not, I don't know, but it's an indication of where most of the gases are and where they're being produced and where they are and how many parts per million and everything else. So again, this ain't my expert field, but I wanted to be fair.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right.
Hey, Adam.
Yes, mate.
What's a good time to get a hold of you, between you and me, and discuss something? QE told me I should come to you. I went to QE. He says you're better at what my question is.
I'm free this afternoon. Other than that, it's Thursday onwards because I've got a debate tomorrow.
Okay. When you say afternoon, I have to go early today. I'll only be in half an hour of the show because I have to train my golfer. But after that would be my say 1:30 Pacific time, which is 9:30 your time, I think.
Yeah, somewhere I'll be about ish. It might not much later. But yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah,
Or
sharp and then.
well, if anything, I'll just spend a few minutes telling you what I want your help on, and then we could pick another time where you have more time.
Yeah, by all means, mate. By all means.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Do I get a heads up or pick my brain live?
Let's just say that it's similar to the Black Swan, but on another area.
The answer is no, you don't get a heads up.
Well, I got it. What's the whole idea of a private talk?
Yeah, exactly. No worries. Yeah, give me a shout whenever you're ready, pal.
All right, you got it.
Fair point. Yeah, no worries.
All right, thanks.
Someone in the pre-show chats said, "Hello, I've sent you some pictures on Skype." So I've stuck them up on screen, and then after I've stuck them up for the audience to see, I've realised that you can't see them. But nevertheless, know this, there are some beautiful images sent by a viewer on screen now.
Wow, how beautiful. I can't see it, but it's beautiful.
Isn't it just?
It's gorgeous. I can't wait for the re-airing of the show.
Like I said, I'll wait till tonight, are we?
In Discord, maybe. And if, yeah, someone's hustling them off mute by the looks. Pick a couple more up and then I'll start the live show in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll go to Discord, see what I find there.
Before you do that, Nate, can you send me a good quality picture of you at the gadget show thing for your icon? Paula wants me to frame around it for the website, but I've only got like one I can nick off the web. Really,
yeah, sure.
Quality.
No worries. Just want me in the gadget show studio.
Yeah, whichever icon you want to go, because everybody's done. I've done Riley's last night. Most of us have got obviously temps and the likes, but want one in the same style of yours. So whatever you want in a circle. For you.
No worries. Yeah, I'll dig something out. I've got a whole bunch of them somewhere.
Cool. Julio, you've been pestered for your bio. I finally sent mine, and John went, "Is that it?"
The same thing he said to me. He hasn't contacted me back personally about my bio. He said on the show, and I argued with him and said my bio is ace.
I think John is asking for too much mass in your bio.
Right.
Maybe you can send them an elastic bio.
He's a hit and miss 10th man, I'm sorry.
Very good.
Bouncing off.
Oh, bouncing off. I love it.
Not bad.
Can't keep a flat earther down.
The collision rates of your jokes are so much, I'm feeling the pressure.
It's undoubtable flat earther will find collisions.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Righteous Force, the Adam Meakin, 10th Man, and Paul Hall in G+, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good
afternoon.
Good morning.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Hello, Marza, M1, and anybody else who said hello in Discord. Good to have you all. Any evidence of a physical Earth edge capable of geometric measurement?
Nope. No, sir.
We've got pictures where we have observer height and to the horizon. We've got pictures where we should definitely be able to see a physical edge, but to be one, it just continues flat plane. So,
Did anybody else understand that mumbling load of old nonsense?
I did.
I didn't understand that, Adam. Can you try again? You're not really clear enough for me to understand it. I've just been swimming though, so it could be my ears as opposed to you.
No, it sounds a little muffled.
muffled or mumbled or just rambling? Oh, in which
Like there's something in no, it's like there's something in between you and the microphone.
For the audience's benefit, Arwin got told off by Adam yesterday.
Excuse me, that was a private conversation.
Me and Arwin, as good mates always should, if there's a little beef, let ourselves sort it out instead of other people. And I think we've moved on. So
I never got to tell Arwin this, right? But that I have also suffered that same conversation with Adam telling me off about Jose, specifically about Jose. So I was quite indignant and put out when I was put in my place by Adam. But after the fact, I was like, actually, Iron Realm Media are a very neutral platform, and my respect for Adam increased after he told me off, the prick.
I always think it's not that. I think you let anything fester between friends. It's never a good thing. And if you've got a beef, they are your friend, then you should tell them, shouldn't you? And I always think that's the best way to move forward. If something's niggling you, don't let it eat away at you. He's your mate. They'll understand it. They might take it to piss off. Perfectly all right. They're your mate, isn't it? After you've aired your side, but don't. You shouldn't say on it. Does nobody any good.
Shout out to XEO5. Hello from Denmark. Been watching for a while and feel it's time to throw a bit of beer money your way. Woohoo! Cheers for the hours of content. No, I really, really appreciate the support. XEO5. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. Sorry to interrupt you. Was that Arwin about to give a response? Sorry.
What?
Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nope.
Not from the 17-mile drive at Pebble Beach.
Anybody? Discord? Anybody at all? Any signs of axial rotation?
No.
Not of the Earth-based variety.
No. Yeah, it's funny that you bring it up. I just had a bit of a conversation with my chat in the early bird right before I came over here. And people again about, but there's something different in the weight. There's something different in the weight. So at the equator, right? It's all super presuppositional, but I actually entertain it for a second to think like, yeah, what is that actually? If there's this micro amount of weight difference in scales with objects, right? Supposedly. So what could that be? Well, if it is in a kilogram, it's 0.00001 gram difference. Then, well, maybe the guy just put a grain of sand on it. Or if it weighed slightly less, he rubbed a little against the bottom of the object. And then you get a weight difference. So it's completely useless.
But Alwyn, there's supposed to be a 20-kilometer bulge at the equator. So never mind the weight difference, right?
A what? Sorry?
there's supposed to be a 20-kilometer bulge at the equator because of the actual rotation.
But
Try again with Adam.
Where's the bulge?
but that's a little excessively ridiculous.
I think he's talking about a certain part of the geometry that Adam has alluded to in the past. So I don't know if you want to say the exact same thing to Adam. I think you'll get a different reaction.
You're talking about the differential
Adam, yeah.
ellipsoid radius, aren't you? So,
Yes, he is. Yes.
So the R mystical R value from the centre of a presupposed Earth to the pole is allegedly 13 miles or 20 kilometres shorter than the one that if you was to measure it at the equator, so the equatorial pole.
Yeah, it's an ellipsoid.
Yeah, the supposed reason for that is a compression thing, isn't it? Interesting that water doesn't.
Yeah, so like as Arwin was saying, yes, they can say there's a tiny little weight difference here at the equator or the pole or somewhere, but okay, let's say that's very hard to detect, but the bulge should be obvious, right? But
Right, the natural consequences of an actual spin, besides that weight difference. None of it is there, because the Earth is stationary.
Happy to move on.
Yeah, just...
Is that it for R value? Because I'm happy to leave out R value based on that. Any evidence? Any other evidence of R?
Nope. No geometrical sphere edge, no curvature, so that ball's not there by a long shot.
Yeah, they need it though, don't they? They need that geometric physical edge. Anyway, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope. Still waiting for Dr. Becky.
Predictions, assertions, fairy tale storytelling time about space, and that's about it.
Dr. Becky's too busy doing science on her computer.
Hey, Flatsoid. Hey, Flatsoid.
Well, they took a picture, quote unquote, of a black hole, and that was a experiment because... No, it's not an experiment.
That was fast. What about any scientific evidence of gravity?
What? Scientific evidence of an effect? How do you do that? The effect presumed to be the cause of relative density displacement, right? Well, relative density can be proven, but yeah, whatever causes the alignment, what determines up and down, it's just, yeah, it's no use. You can't test it. Can't prove it. No scientific evidence.
After a long conversation between Dr. John D., Adam, and Quantum Eraser, the conclusion was drawn that it's a second-order effect of entropy.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's not scientifically provable.
No, I'm not talking about gravity. I'm talking about relative density.
Oh, right. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
John's put his yet to see it. It came out last night. I know he's sent it all, but he's been putting a lot of work into this. And part one come out. It's something I want to watch. There, so there's Dr. John D's stuff on trying to remove this G, consider downward accelerations or downward movement in relation to entropy and relative quality. I'd say no more because I know no more, but looking forward to seeing that.
That's Dr. John D.
Yeah, it's
cool.
on his channel now.
Excellent. Also, might as well plug the other John at the same time. So that one was Dr. John D under that channel name. And tonight, if you're watching this live, if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley channel as the premiere, this has already happened. But on the Quantum Eraser channel, 7 PM UK time and 1 PM Central Standard Time, he's going to cover this black swan argument, which is the analogy alone has caused confusion amongst many a globehead, which amuses me greatly. Nevertheless, it's a globe destroyer based on the requirement of a physical edge for boats to go over, you know. Anyway, that'll get covered on the Quantum Erased channel tonight, 7 p.m. UK, 1 p.m. US standard, US Central Time, sorry. Be here or be sphere. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No evidence, Nathan. Definitely a no.
Again, it's once again, the only thing I've got is contradictory stuff to that being possible based on the physics we do know in relation to Curie point of metals. So,
Yeah, the Borgers have definitely given up on that one because there's no pictures even that can even be fabricated. So yeah.
Just cartoon images.
That's all they have of the
Yeah,
globe.
no composites. No composites. Yeah.
Yeah, claimed to be by the words of men. I mean, so by that standard, you're saying that all they would need to do is reach the standards of NASA. So say that it's a composite image of the centre of Earth. And then, oh yeah, well, this man claims to have photographed it. You know, they just need to make up a bullshit story about it.
Yeah, well, at this stage, they haven't even attempted to make a composite image. So they might, you never know. They'll say satellites have detected the molten iron core by some special XYZ neutrino scanning or something like that.
Right.
DNS, mate.
I'm pretty sure it's still going to be a CGI image, though.
I was going to say,
When they
that's
do
all
that.
they've got for the globe, though. Anyway. What haven't we had? Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
I will have to say that was lovely
Can't even-
yesterday.
Oh,
I got to listen to that.
with
That
unorthodox.
was lovely.
Yeah, an Orthodox is a stubborn sod, isn't he?
You need a
Is the
container.
pipe classed as a container, Nathan?
Yeah, it does.
All right, then no.
Even to weigh the gas, you still have to have a container and it has to be under pressure, right?
Correct. I think that concludes the housekeeping. Distance to the sun. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
No. No, there's no evidence it's even a physical object in a location. I'm hearing more people about it, also. The idea is spreading.
Well, the Globetrotters say it's 93 million miles away.
Indeed.
In R they trust.
So in R they trust is how they got the distance to the sun. So if R is proven to be false because the physical edge, that horizon that they need is wrong, what happens to the whole model, Nathan?
It all falls to pieces. It was a reification to begin with, but the reification completely falls to pieces at that point.
Let's see, them figuring out the distance to the sun, if they start arguing refraction at the horizon, then not only do they mess up on the distance to the moon, because that's unknown, but they also mess up on the angles because the refraction would have moved the sun's position, correct? So they're screwed all the way around.
Yeah. Yeah, terrestrial refraction bites them in the ass on the ground, and stellar refraction bites them in the ass in the air. So when people say, why does the size of the sun not change? You can point out to them that the sun is given to you in an angular size and not actual size. So the question more accurately would be, why does the not actual size of the sun not change its not actual size as it moves from its, as Paul has just pointed out, not actual position throughout the day? Well, what a useful proof that is.
Well, they measure the distance to the sun on the summer, I think it's the winter or summer solstice, I can't remember exactly, which means it has to be at the horizon to do that. So there's a problem.
What,
Paul, your mic is really bad, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll connect and reconnect.
Oh no, it's come back nicely. It was
Okay,
fine.
sorry.
It's
Is that
now
better?
fine, it seems.
Okay. Did you hear what I said? I said if it's the refraction, if you're measuring at the winter or summer solstice, the distance of the sun.
Your mic has gone. It's gone crackly again. I'm really sorry. We did get what you said though.
Your sound is refracting.
You're not where you say you are.
Yeah, but we've got a not actual position of a sun being referenced to a not actual position of the horizon, I think is Paul's point. It all gets rather comical when you actually boil down what they need to be physical and what they need to be where physically.
Speaking of refraction, I actually put a demonstration on Master B. The ballers don't understand how refraction of light works.
Should I play this with no? I'll just play it. If it's rubbish, it's on you. If I can get it a bit nicer centered. How do I get it to play? There we go. Oh, cool. Very short and sweet. I love it.
Yeah, it took me like 2 minutes.
Very good. Love it.
Hello, folks. Can you hear me?
Can. Hello. Good to have you. Who's that?
Hi, Nathan. My name's Richard. How are you doing?
Very well. Nice to have you, Richard.
Thank you. Yeah, I just thought I'd join in. I have a few questions about a flat Earth.
Okay, I'm probably not the best person to answer you, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm a glober. I'll come out with it from the very start. The whole flat Earth. So, am I right in saying that we are being denied the truth by the world governments and space agencies all around the world?
If that's your conclusion, then that's reasonable enough, I suppose.
Right. So, why are these people hiding the flat Earth from us?
I don't know. We haven't got crystal balls on this show, so to divine the thoughts of others would be insanity.
It's not entirely though, Nathan.
Oh, maybe not. Arwin's got. I lied. Arwin has a crystal ball. Go ahead, Arwin.
No, not about that one. No, but it is method based. You know, it is a strategy. It's a devious strategy, but the strategy is to confuse your target group and then, in the confusion, gain control. If you take away the information that you know from others, then you have an advantage over them. Those are the roots of the basic advantage mechanics behind the deception.
I'd put it just because you can't divine the motives of a deceiver doesn't mean you're not being deceived. It doesn't. To me, it's one of the questions you always start out with. But it's one of the questions it's really there for your cognitive dissonance to cling on to kind of just box it away. Oh, they wouldn't really lie. Why would they want to lie? But the reality is we're all here because we can see their lies. But to try and pass that off to say, well, I can ignore it if I can't define their motivation just seems strange. I have no idea why they're lying to us, but I would suggest it's something that we've not found out is the reason we're lying, but Flat Earth may be part of that. I think it's probably bigger.
Can I ask you a question?
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I know governments lie all the time. The main reason a government lies is because the lie makes them more money or saves them more money than the truth.
No,
for example,
the only reason for government is to control us. The money is a pretense. Yeah, they print their own money. Money is not real. The only functions of all of these things is to keep us subjugated.
Does that answer your question,
right?
Richard?
Not really, because as far as I'm thinking, that even if they announce tomorrow or even right now that it is a flat Earth, then Boris Johnson's still going to be PM of Britain, Angela Merkel's still going to be running Germany, Trump's still going to be running America. Nothing will really change. So why are they hiding it?
Nothing political will change, you mean?
I think you've mistaken something there.
How about in the next
data,
elections?
knowledge, and information is power. So they're not just going to come out and say it if it's true. They will always want to do something related to maintaining power, increasing their power through their knowledge, the data that they have, and so on.
But how does that assist them? How does that help them?
Who cares? Sorry, I said this at the beginning. Right, the motivation beyond our understanding, comprehension, it's pointless to divine other people's thoughts. The consequences for everyone else, I couldn't care less about. The consequences for you are personal to you. But that's not what we're here for. So we're here to expose the lie as opposed to divine the motivation of the liar. Is there anything else you've got to ask specifically in regards to the nature of reality?
Can I interject before he moves on? Can I interject a question to him before he moves on? And this
By all
is my
means,
question
yeah.
to you, sir. Yeah, sir, thank you for coming, Richard, by the way. The question
No
is
problem.
this. If the evidence is there for flat Earth and the evidence for globe Earth is not there, are you going to be...
I don't agree with that, but that's my personal opinion.
He hasn't asked his question yet. Sorry,
yes,
hold on a
you.
second,
Yeah,
10th
I
man.
know. Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay, just need to pause until he's specifically saying, I've finished, that's it. Because otherwise, when you speak, it cuts off someone else's line, that's all. Go ahead, 10th man.
All right.
Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
I'll just try it once more. You don't need to apologise. Just try and pay a bit more attention. I said, go ahead, 10th man. That just means I just need you not to reply so you don't cut his mic. Thank you.
So if the evidence shows flat Earth and the evidence negates globe Earth, I'm going to be moved by the evidence. Now, after I'm moved by the evidence to take a position based on evidence, I'm going to encounter other people who I'm going to show the evidence to. And some of them will go with the evidence and some of them will say, but why? But why? Why would they? Now, is the evidence the criteria or the why the criteria here? I'm going to go by evidence, not the why.
No, for me it is the why.
Why?
If we go back...
Why?
Oh, sorry,
Hold
Nathan.
on, 10th man. Go ahead, Richard.
Well, if we go back to when the Russians first went into space, obviously it was the height of the Cold War. That was a perfect opportunity for either the Russians or the Americans to get one over on the other by saying it's not a globe. Yet that opportunity was missed.
Unless, of course, they're on the same team and it was all a game. The whole Cold War was a game to control, take away your civil rights, let you, not take away, let you give away, whilst part of the deception was this race for space. It's all a game. Why do you think space is limited? Limited to, it's a bit like the nuclear weapons. It's all a game. You're only allowed in the club. And that's why Iran won't be allowed nuclear weapons until its bank falls in line. You know, you're using media reports as evidence there, as if the way you started out by admitting they lie to us. Now, the strange one here is that you've started out with a lie that is, as Tenth just said to you, is let's go with the evidence. The word you used was space. So I would suggest to you that the space race is fake. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. I'd go with that evidence, not the very dubious evidence that they give you to support their argument that they had a space race.
Right. So what about Lockheed Blackbird pilots? You know, the SR-71 guys who said they flew that high they could see the curvature of the Earth. Were they lying as well?
No, they've misunderstood what curvature actually is. So if you're a fundamentalist, globe-worshipping zealot, you think that the edge of a sphere is the arbitrary position where the sky meets the ground.
Well, not. I wouldn't put it that way.
I would.
As such, the sky doesn't physically touch the ground, it's just the perception.
No, it's not. on your model. It's a physical edge of a sphere. What do you think they were looking at when they said that
The
they
edge
could see?
of the sphere.
Right.
As far as their vision could see them, because they were 80,000 foot up.
Looking at the edge of the sphere, something physical then. So regardless of you now confusing the...
No, they were looking at
haven't
the
finished my
edge
statement.
of the
Richard,
ball that they could see.
Richard, I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Richard, I appreciate that my responses to your claim that someone went up to 80,000 feet and saw the curve of the Earth are quite painful cognitively. To hear me point out that you are confusing two different things. One would be a physical edge they're claiming to be seeing, because that's what your model requires. The other would be the arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground. They're not the same thing, but your model requires you have a physical edge. You have an edge for boats to go over, to see from 80,000 feet, to obscure buildings in the distance. It's physical. Now that's not what the horizon is. We haven't even got to the space race, a complete lie in and of itself that proves unequivocally these people are working together, because they're both lying with the same lie about a place that cannot exist. Second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum. So given that we can't have a sky vacuum, and they're both saying they're going to a sky vacuum, I'm going to assert that they're both in on the same lie, because that's a fact. They are lying about the same thing.
Richard, I'd like to
Hold on,
ask you
10th
a
man.
question.
I can't let him have that diatribe and then have you speak. Go ahead, Richard.
All right.
Right, I'm not sure where you're getting this idea that our model requires a physical edge to the sphere, because it's a sphere. It doesn't have a physical edge. The only bit you can describe as a physical edge is the bit you can see. It's like holding a ball in front of your face. You can see the edge of it, but it's not the actual edge. If you turn the ball, the edge moves.
Sorry, you can see the edge of it. So I don't need any help, guys. You can see the edge of it when you hold a ball up. So there's a part that you cannot see past, the physical edge. A physical thing stopping you seeing what's beyond that physical edge. As you just declared, it has an edge that you can see.
Yes, it has an edge you can see.
So it has an edge.
You turn that ball,
so it has an edge then. So you are mistaken when you incorrectly identify an arbitrary position, a not actual location, where the sky appears to meet the ground, with a physical edge of a ball that you hold up. The ball has a physical edge. We have a horizon. So they're not the same thing, but your, as you correctly identified, model has a physical edge, claimed to be viewed by these pilots, SR-72. They're saying they can see the physical edge bending? No, mate, that'd be the horizon, a not actual location where the sky appears to meet the ground. It's just forced upon us by way of what a model must do. You must have an edge in the physicality that we observe because your model has an edge. However, they're not the same thing. You're just confused. Also, you've bought a lie about a place that can't exist. If the sky was a vacuum, the place these space agencies are going for their space race between each other, on the same field, you might say, well, the place they're claiming to go doesn't exist because of a law of nature. The second law of thermodynamics would dictate that there'd be an entropy increase. The gas we're breathing would fill that volume. We can't have gas pressure unless we're contained. And your religion, your model, has a sky vacuum. When you juxtapose that model and reify it into reality, I look up and apparently that's a vacuum. No, mate, we wouldn't have any gas to breathe. So the agencies you're appealing to, apparently in a race, are in cahoots, lying about the same thing, a fake place that can't exist. Space! Not a vacuum, mate. We'd all be dead.
Okay, so yeah, perhaps I agree then. Every single space agency is lying about it. The whole point of my question originally is why? That's what I can't get around.
And
that is
I
the only thing
answered
that is
you.
holding me back.
Oh, mate. So you appreciate that all the space agencies are lying to us then, first and foremost, as you
It
just... It wouldn't surprise you. It wouldn't surprise you. Based on natural law, the sky cannot be a vacuum, and they both claim it is, whilst being in apparent race with each other, to get to a place that doesn't exist. that they both claim to have got to. Now, why is not something I can divine. I don't have a crystal ball. But they're definitely lying about fake space now, aren't they, Sunshine?
Well, if they
Nathan,
are,
time for
they're
you to
doing
read
it for
that
what?
super chat.
Sorry, I don't need any help. If they are, no, they are. They are because it violates natural law. Unless you've got a rebuttal to that, it's not an if anymore. They are definitely lying about their race to a fake place. Outer space is not real. The sky is not a vacuum. The gas we're breathing would fill the space. But yet they both claim to have got there. Not if anymore. Definitely both lying about the same fake place. Why is not within my capabilities. I don't have a crystal ball. That's for you to ponder on and worry about. Why have they lied to you about going to a fake place? Now that might disturb you and it might leave you with this really damning question, but I don't have the answer about why they, not me, lied to you about a fake place called outer space. Do you understand?
Yes, yeah, completely. I was made the assumption that you flat earthers would have a good reason as to why they are lying to us.
For the third time, I haven't got a crystal ball. I can expose the lie they've told you that you seem to now appreciate, that they're lying about a fake place that doesn't exist, that they're in a race to get to. Now, why they've done that, go and ask them. Or, like I deal with liars, detach yourself from the liars, rather than appealing to the liar for an explanation about the lie. Because do you know what they'll give you? More lies. Me, I'm giving you the truth. Space is fake. They weren't in a race to get there. And why they lied, I don't care about. You do, I don't. So let's stop asking for a fourth or a fifth time why they lied. Let's just ponder on the fact that space is not real.
Okay, Nathan, no problem. I was hoping to get an answer to that question. I guess you were right when I first came here. I wasn't the right place to go. I've also been to the Flat Earth Society website, and they couldn't help me either. So I'll take your advice and go back to the space agencies and see what they say.
Good idea.
Can I ask you a question? Because I find it fascinating. And you're obviously, you're taking time to look into this. I find it fascinating that you're clinging on, for want of a better phrase, your dissonance is using this as your reason for it not to be true. You're clearly an intelligent man. You're not having the world pulled over your eyes with what you're being given from the space agencies. But the reason that you're not maybe moving your position a little bit more appears to be this matter, that you can't be given a validation for why the people are lying to you, therefore probably not lying. Is that where you're still at? If I was to be able to give you
I'd say that's a good explanation, yeah. I mean, I was going to compare it earlier, but again, I kept cutting people off accidentally, so I apologise for that again. But, the main thing that annoyed me with government's line was all about tobacco products. They used to say it's good for kids to sit in the living room with the parents while they're smoking, getting more and more people addicted to smoking, when we all know what smoking does to you. But the reason they did that was because the absolute bags and bags of cash they made off of taxes from both people buying them and the tobacco companies. I can understand there why a government would lie at that, because of money. I can't understand why they're lying about this.
How about take tobacco? Tobacco's good for you. And it's only the way in which they treat and spray with all the things that they write on the boxes to tell you what they sprayed it with, benzene, all the other carcinogens they put on it, that's part of their overall bigger plan. Now, if what you need to justify things being, to justify the obviousness of the lie is a just so story, that's really where you need to, for me, have a little look at what's justifying your beliefs anymore. Not trying to have another just so story so that you can move past the lies. You don't need another just so story. No, just know being lied to. That's sufficient. And then at that point, stop using these people to try and define your reality anymore. Because as Nathan said, all you're going to get from them is more lies.
I'll toss you a bone. Look into psychopathy. Then you'll figure out why they lied to you. There you go.
Psychopathy.
Nathan,
Will do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nathan.
Let me just finish off my bone. Yeah. The world's run by psychopaths. Psychopaths who are, in social terms, demonised and made to seem very bad. Some would argue that they're cognitively far better off than us, given that they all rise to the top with their total lack of empathy. Now, 1 in 20 Westerners is deemed to be a psychopath, so they're not exactly uncommon, and they typically rise to the top. Your bastard manager's a psychopath, and all of the people in charge are psychopaths, with absolutely no empathy whatsoever. So if you want to know why you're being lied to, and why they laugh in your face when you figure out that they've lied, that's why. There you go. There's an answer.
Nath, I must tell you this. My wife's been watching it. Killing Eve. Apparently you'll love it because it's all about psychopathy and how normal people, when they get pulled into this, start to modify their behaviour and become so. So it's that Chinese girl from Grey's Anatomy, Christina Yang. I'm not sure the actress is.
Yeah.
Apparently it's brilliant. So I think you would like it.
Well, it's the analogy in They Live. So there's the characters that align with they're psychopaths in They Live. The monsters are psychopaths, just for anybody who didn't realise. Well, the people who are aligned with them but not actually monsters are the people who've adapted their behaviour so that they can fit in a world where there is no empathy amongst characters that have no empathy. So they modify their behaviour so that they can be that way. Doesn't make them psychopathic, doesn't mean they have no empathy. It just means that their behaviour's been modified so that they can fit in a society that works in that manner.
Nathan, before I go,
Sort of like selling your soul.
Say again.
Before,
sorry, I'm just
Sort of
talking
like
to
selling your.
I was talking to 10th Man because I know he's got to get off. Go ahead, 10th Man. Sorry.
Yeah, before I go, can you read that super chat and I'll make a comment that you got from Alexander?
Yeah, sure. I can only see one from XCO5. Maybe my chat's gone wrong. Just give me a second. I'll refresh it and see if I can get the... Oh, yes. Alexander. Neil deGrasse Tyson and, quote, that stuff is flat from 120,000 feet. So what with the pilots? It doesn't matter. People can claim... Yeah, go ahead, 10th Man. Sorry.
So for Richard, before I go, the pilot says he sees Earth curve. Nathan described it the way the Earth has to have that edge. Neil deGrasse Tyson is seeing all these weather balloons go up to 120,000 feet, and it shows no Earth curve. So then he comes on the show and says, hey, that stuff is flat from 120,000 feet. You got to get much higher. And he threw Felix Baumgartner under the bus and said, it's obvious that guy used a wide-angle lens. You could see how it's distorting everything. So now you have all this evidence, and you still are saying, but why? Instead of looking at the contradictions from the globe side on the very same matter.
Yeah, he's conceded that they're lying, but said, why would they lie? And Adam said, well, is that your justification for them not lying because you can't figure out why they'd lie? And his answer was yes. So that's his cognitive battle. But he's not denying what we've put forth. I just shout out XCO. Go ahead, 10th, go on.
So the pilot is lying. Neil deGrasse is lying. And yet he goes to them to find out why they're lying. But then he realizes they're both lying, or one of them is lying.
Neither of them are lying.
And that's why, Richard, I beg you, as a fellow man, go with the evidence.
Neither of them are lying, though.
Please, sir.
I've got to qualify that now, 10th Man. Neither of them are lying. You don't know they're lying. I've got to cover that now. Ugh.
Okay, they have stories. They have stories that don't meet up in the middle. How's that?
Well, it's not lies. Both of them believe what they're saying. They don't necessarily have any malice aforethought when they say that they are perceiving an Earth curve edge in the horizon, because that's how they've been programmed to believe things. Now, I can point out that one is a physical edge and one is an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, depending on the conditions of the day. Well, me pointing that out doesn't mean that when the statements were made by Baumgartner or Neil deGrasse Tyson that they don't genuinely believe the statements to be actually factually accurate. Well, yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson's more correct in terms of his declaration in regards to their physical edge. You get up to 120,000 feet, and optically, based on it being a physical edge, that stuff is flat. The reason I know he's phrasing it that way is because he's holding a bloody beach ball like Richard did when he made his example. He's saying that stuff is flat as in, I can't see the physical edge of this ball. Because that's what it is. So it forces you into a position where you have an understanding cognitively, by the way he's saying it, that the horizon's the edge of a ball, physical, like his ball he's holding. Well, that stuff is flat from 120,000 feet, is his declaration that you couldn't see the physical curving edge of a ball from that proportional distance off his beach ball, i.e. it's not very high when you get above this claimed to be sphere Earth, therefore it would appear flat, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson anyway. Well, appearing flat is him saying you wouldn't see the curved edge of the ball Earth in its physicality in any instance at that height. But he's still pointing out to you, the listener of that declared it's flat proof, that you've got a physical edge, as noted by his beach ball he's holding. So he's making the example, this is your edge. And you won't see it curving at 120,000 feet, that stuff's flat from that height. But you've still got the idea that it's a physical edge in your mind, because he's reifying it with his bloody beach ball.
Can I make a comment about the pilot?
Yeah.
I've got a picture on screen, and I actually shared it in the Discord. It actually, if you look at the picture of the SR-71, if you look at the windows that the pilots are looking out of, the windows are curved slightly, or I'm not sure how much, but you can actually see that in the image. And the other aspect of that as well is if you look at their suits, the pressurized suits, they also have a domed looking, or it's, concave, I can't ever, convex or whatever, shape to them as well. So you're looking at the pilot's looking through a convex lens of their helmet, and then they're looking through a convex image of the window. So the pilot may have saw the curvature, but it was actually probably his distortion of his helmet.
Not so fast. Yes, all that is true. Yes, their perception would be to see curvature of what now?
The horizon.
Oh, a not actual location where the sky appears to meet the ground is being curved by their helmets and by the lens in front of them by way of the cockpit. Well, that's fascinating. It doesn't change the fact that it's a not actual location, and not the physical reified edge of a beach ball held by Neil deGrasse Tyson when he asserts that stuff is flat when you're not very high above it, when you make the horizon a physical edge of a beach ball, which it's not.
Can I just interject there, Nathan?
Of course you can.
Funny enough, I was about to say something similar. When I actually heard that Blackbird pilot quote that he could see the curvature of the Earth, it was just a passing comment as he was retelling another story. When you think about it, that Blackbird pilot was 80,000 foot up doing probably Mach 5, although it was only ever confirmed to do Mach 3, which is, pretty fast, and he's wearing a full-on spacesuit with, as whoever just pointed out, a curved helmet. That could have caused it.
Cause what now? Hold on. Let's just see how we can get it. Cause what?
Cause him to see what he thought was a curve. Like I said, it was just a passing comment he mentioned when he was telling another story.
I agree. That's why I'm saying he's not lying. But what's curving now? What's he seeing curve?
What he would assume would be the horizon.
No, it is the horizon.
Yeah, the edge of his vision.
But no, the edge of what you thought, may have you changed your opinion, we'll see, you thought was the physical edge of a sphere model.
I'm not sure how happy I'm about that phrase, physical edge of a sphere, because a square has a physical edge, but it's a two-dimensional object. A three-dimensional object like a sphere just keeps on going round.
I understand that. If I hold up a beach ball, can you see what is beyond the top edge of it?
No, until
so it's got an edge then. So it's got an edge. And what's stopping me from seeing what's on the other side of it? Is it the physical edge that's stopping me from seeing the other side of it?
It's not a physical edge, though, is it? That edge
so it's
moves
transparent.
Every time you move that ball.
It's imaginary. Transparent, imaginary edge that's stopping me seeing over it. What do the boats go over on a sphere? Do they go over a not edge? For us to see the bottoms of them being disappeared by a claim to be model that ignores all aspects of perspective. Is that not an edge that they're going over?
That's a good point there, actually. Yeah. So I'm stood here on the beach and I watch the boat disappear over the horizon. I can't see that boat anymore, but yet the guys on the boat, they see a different horizon because they're on a different part of the ball. So the physical edge you're talking about depends on who's looking at the ball and from what angle. So if I held that ball up, but I stood right in front of you,
excuse me,
we'd both see.
Excuse me, I'm trying to get you to concede physical edge, and you're saying the physical edge changes depending on if you move. It doesn't change the fact that they're both looking at a physical edge according to you obscuring a boat now. So it is an edge, it can obscure a boat, and it changes with your position. So yeah, it's still a physical edge obscuring stuff though. From one position with one set of eyeballs, it's just a physical edge with your boat claim to go over it. So why do you keep telling me it's not a physical edge and you don't like the phraseology when that's precisely what it's claimed to be? It's just not the horizon. The horizon isn't a physical location, even though we're now having boats apparently go over it, even though it's a not actual place. This is the problem that you're now arguing about. You've got a problem. One is a not actual location, the other is a sphere edge that would need boats to be physically obstructed when they go over the edge of it, from your viewpoint.
Right, I'm not quite following you fully there because you're talking about a physical edge from your perspective, but if I was to stand in front of you with that ball but then turn slightly to your side, we would both see a different physical edge of that ball.
Yeah, I can't be in two places at once though, so I'm not comparing and contrasting with two different images. I'm just saying that if I watch a boat, according to you, go over the edge, it's gone over a physical edge. Not what is comparing to your different position with a different example. That's called a red herring. Fallacy. Just try and address what I'm saying. According to you and your religious reification of a sphere model into the not actual location where the sky appears to meet the ground, is a physical edge, from my viewpoint, for boats to go over and be obscured by. That's not an incorrect phraseology, and I don't like your claim that it's not a reasonable one. It is.
Okay, I'll just agree to disagree with that one on you then.
Why would you disagree? What's wrong with my claim that you fundies, not me, say boats go over the edge when they start appearing to disappear from bottom up? They claim to be going over an edge, and you don't like that.
No, they are going over the horizon, but it's not a physical edge. You're sort of putting a limitation on something that continually goes around and around and around.
Sorry, what's it being obscured by now?
I suppose the best way of describing it would be the horizon, which I define as where my physical view ends.
Well, where your physical view ends is based on your perspective, not based on a sphere edge that you've reified into that position where your vision ends. It's claimed to be the edge of a sphere if you're a heliocentrist. Look, I'm going to draw an end to this by telling you it's got physical geometry. Like if I hold a beach ball in your example, I can't see past a part of the beach ball because the beach ball's physically in the way. Now, you might not like the terminology edge, but that edge is precisely what is claimed if it is a ball and I do have a boat slightly beyond where I can see. There's a physical edge of the sphere claimed to be blocking the boat in my actuality when I see a boat go away from me in the distance. So it's a physical obstruction, an edge. You don't have to like it. That's the geometry of a sphere.
Richard, can I
Okay, I will take that under consideration and do a little more looking into that. What did you say it is I need to research into again? Psycho?
No. That was to answer an aside question when you asked me to divine the thoughts of the people who've lied to you about outer space being real. This is a different issue. I've got to get one concession from you before I can get on in debunking what is your religion. But you're saying, oh, well, I don't know enough about my religion here. I'm sure I haven't got a physical edge, even though earlier on you gave me an example of holding up a ball and how the ball can obscure things with its very much physicality. So now suddenly you've got a bit hazy. I just need to get your cognition back wired correctly for the example you gave me when you held up a ball in metaphor. Do you forget that example you gave me?
No, I remember that example perfectly because my whole point is a sphere does not have a actual edge where it ends. That's what I'm
I heard
arguing
that.
about.
I understand that. And I've clarified it with disclaimers about from my position, looking over the edge of something apparently, according to you in my actual worldview, not when holding up a ball, the boat goes over when it reaches the horizon, a field of view. So, in reality, if it's claimed that the boat is going over the horizon and the horizon's the edge of a sphere, then it's being claimed to be physically obscured by the edge of the sphere. This isn't complicated.
No, I agree, and the more you explain it, the more it is beginning to make sense to me.
Excellent. So we've got a claim, God, I've got to explain your own religion to you to fight with it, that the edge of the sphere obscures boats as they go over it. Finally. Great, we can move on. So, I'll now give you a little example. With a brick. An 8-inch brick. If you put an 8-inch brick in front of you, at about, 10 metres, can you see it?
With my eyesight, probably not.
What about if it's 3 feet in front of you? 3 feet?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. An 8-inch brick at 10 metres, I would hope I could see it.
Okay. What about if you put the brick at a mile?
Definitely not.
So, it's disappeared from view at a mile. Would you concede that, so we don't have some nonsense about your quality of vision, that 3 other people with average vision stood next to you would also agree that while standing, let's say, on a giant runway, that if you put a brick at a mile on that very flat, very long runway with a clear view of it, you won't see it because it's too small?
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair assessment, yeah.
So, let's now put that brick at 2 miles. Is it more or less clear, or is it still vanished completely?
Yeah, without any kind of optical enhancement, like a rifle scope, for example, you're not going to see that, or a pair of binoculars.
Perfect. So let's get a rifle scope then. Given that it's now disappeared, with a rifle scope, I'm going to put the same exact 8-inch brick at 5 miles. Can you see an 8-inch brick with a rifle scope at 8 miles? Or 5 miles, whatever.
Definitely. No. The longest sniper shot in the world's only been 2.5 miles. You wouldn't physically be able to get the optics on something that far away. So
you can't see an 8-inch brick through a piece of optical equipment designed to see a long way at 8 miles, say?
Yep. All right. Well,
so the brick...
Rifle scope was perhaps not the greatest example. If we've got, I don't know, maybe some kind of powerful telescope at 8 miles, possibly.
Okay. So, shall we agree at 10 miles that with a telescope you can't see the brick? How far do I need to go for the brick to disappear in the telescope? You tell me.
Yeah, let's agree at 10 miles then. Where's this taking us to?
Well, we'll get there once we get the concession. So, we've got a telescope, we're looking at a brick, it's 8 inches, it's disappeared at 10 miles, but if you put it at 5 miles, you can see it with the telescope. Agreed?
Go on then, yeah.
So, the brick's gone at 10 miles, you can't see it?
Yep.
What about if I now pile on 25,000 bricks on top of that brick and build a skyscraper? Can you see the skyscraper at 8 miles? With your telescope?
With the telescope?
Yeah. Can you see a skyscraper?
Probably. Hello?
Can you see the skyscraper I've put on top of the brick that disappeared at 8 miles?
Probably, yes.
So, we can't see the bottom brick. It's too small to see. But the pile of bricks on top of it we can see. Correct?
Yeah.
So, we're losing... Don't talk over me, my friend. So, we've lost the bottom of this building to the tune of 1 brick at 8 miles. It's disappeared from the bottom up because the brick at the bottom is too small to see. Not Earth curve, angular limitation. Do you understand?
Yes, yeah, I never mentioned
So given that we've got a boat doing the same thing, very far in the distance, and the bottom of the boat is a bit like the bottom of this brick at the bottom of a skyscraper. The bottom angle's very small and very far away and disappears first. Ergo, the boat isn't going over an Earth curve, it's merely too small of an angle because it's very far away and has disappeared from the bottom up.
Well, yes, of course things disappear from the bottom up. It would be a giant... well, yeah, if things disappear from the top down, that would be absolutely impossible, according to any model.
No, I haven't mentioned a model. What are you talking about? I'm just describing optics.
Yeah, I didn't mention any Earth curve, but you start talking about that.
Oh, really? So when the boat went over the curve of the Earth that we had to argue for 10 minutes about whether or not it was going over an edge, it wasn't going over a curve when it was disappearing from bottom up then. It wasn't going over an edge then when we argued about the edge that the boat's apparently going over when it's claimed to be Earth curve that causes this. That wasn't the boat going over the edge. It's obviously the perspective causing the bottom to disappear then, not the edge that we argued about for 10 minutes when you reify an Earth curve edge into a point where things get too small to see. We call that point the horizon. It's where the sky appears to meet the ground and you think is an edge of a sphere for boats to physically go over and be obstructed by, even though things can very much disappear from bottom up due to angular limitation on the flat plane we live on.
No, you changed my words slightly there, Nathan. I said there was a horizon, not an actual physical edge, because there is no edge to a sphere. I never mentioned anything about a curve, but you've latched onto that and then switched back to edge again. But I did say that when the boat disappears over the horizon, it's disappeared out of my view. However, the guys on the boat then have their own horizon because they have a different point of view from me.
So you don't think, a la the heliocentric model of a sphere Earth, that when a boat disappears in the distance, it's going over the edge because it's physically obscured? I.e., if I was holding up a beach ball and I had a little model boat that I pushed over the top of it from my perspective, the beach ball would be in front of the bottom of the boat. So you now don't think that Earth causes that effect? I.e., if I move a boat over the top of a ball that I'm holding, the physical edge of the ball obstructs the boat from view with its physicality. You don't think that's happening when a boat goes into the distance and gets too small to see then? Welcome to Flat Earth. No, you're right. Earth curve doesn't cause boats to be obscured from bottom up. The Earth curve calculator that only asserts that that's caused by Earth curve edge obstruction isn't the cause of that. You'd be right. But that's what your religion dictates if you live on a sphere. The boats go over the edge. The bottoms of buildings are obscured by that very same edge of a sphere, like the one described when you held up a ball and had a boat that was beyond the physicality to block the bottom of it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm sure at some point, the boat will go over the edge of the sphere. But as a human, the actual distance we can see is nowhere near compared to the sheer size of the Earth.
I mean, what about with a rifle scope? Sorry, mate, you don't seem to understand that edge has got a geometry, a physicality. It's determined to be in a specific place based on its physicality and geometry, just like if you were holding up an actual ball. Now, I understand that you've got this vague notion about the horizon it not being an actual place, which we all here appreciate. But your ball religion's got a physical edge that boat must go over. Now, I know that you like my explanation because it makes sense, that it's going into the distance and disappearing from bottom up due to an angular limitation that could only occur on a flat plane. But your ball religion dictates that it must go over an edge. You don't have to like it. And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
You want me to work that out?
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know the formula off the top of my head. That'd be great. Go ahead.
What speed's it going?
I've got it posted here, 2193, I think. I can barely see it now. I'm got my glasses off. Yeah, 2193 miles per hour.
I'm gonna get her dressed. Oh, I had a super chat right at the end from Alexander. It says, just one brick far away and an egg in water with salt is just enough to ruin the whole heliocentric religion. Shout out to Alexander for the super chat. Also, got a new member, Leonardo Gonzalez. Hey. Joined as a unicorn.
Nathan.
Hello.
Hi. Just want to say thank you very much for that. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I will go away and do some research, and I'll hopefully join you again sometime.
Hey, Richard.
It was a pleasure.
I think Nathan was really kind. Look, it started out quite good, but at the end there, respectfully, probably got a bit heated because Nathan was he alluded to it, educate you on your own model, and you kind of got a lot of the things there, but I think you need to get a little grasp of the heliocentric ball model with regards to this edge that you're arguing about. And I appreciate on a ball, the edge will continually move and change its location compared to a cube. I understand that point, but what we're trying to point out to you is that from an observer, that edge at distance begins to have an effect. And you may know the phrase, it's 8 inches per mile squared. That's the rate at which it starts to apply, and it starts to interfere, which is why on a ball you have to tilt your camera down into the distance. Go and look at the maths of that. And once you do that, the consequence is that edge of the ball starts to interfere. Now, obviously, on a basketball, it interferes very quickly. It interferes a lot slower, which is why I think you're pushing it into the realms of not needing to be dealt with, but it does. And it compounds at a rate of 8 inches per mile. So the first is only 8 inches, but at 3, it's 9 times, it's 72 inches, isn't it? So it really starts to, as you start to apply that distance, increase the effect of the geometry at an exponential rate. So look at it, mate, because I think if you
Adam, do you know what else roughly works out at about the same rate?
Eyeballs.
What, the rate I was using analogy with the brick disappearing, i.e. perspective, the rate things will disappear from bottom up if you applied the Rayleigh criterion, the angular limitation of anything with an aperture.
There was a guy on Ranties last night, and his whole supposition that the reason it's a ball is when he takes measurements, they match the ball. It kind of, again, lays the ignorance that obviously if you were going to build the ball and take the measurements to make a model, say it's a ball, the first thing you have to do is take those measurements, which will then translate into the size of balls you're going to make it out to be. So it was a kind of a what's the correct word, Nathan? You'll give me the correct thing. It's the consequent.
Well, it's circular reasoning. They're building a ball up in our vision, in Muppet Vision, based on geometric measurements, physical measurements. But then when you get to the point that they're juxtaposing the physicality with what we actually see and how things disappear from bottom up with perspective, they will flip-flop between actual effects that we observe and geometric effects that are dictated by the physical edge of their sphere. So at the moment, it's got to the point where they're saying it's looming. So you've got them, because we've got a picture that's basically impossible on a sphere, they're saying the edge is being loomed. So you've got the edge above the horizon. So the horizon's looming above the horizon. That's what we've got to in the point where, the obvious and observable nature of reality is flat. And the only way to work it back geometrically is to back calculate what your eye observes and then put that into physicality. Now that's been crapped all over recently with high zoom cameras and people actually having a look. They get around it with refraction. But it's based on the same exact geometry, you're just bending light from beyond the curve. But then when the curve starts moving, the edge starts moving, it causes a real problem, which I think is just great. It breaks the calculator completely, this Black Swan argument. I just think it's priceless. I'm going to bang on about it indefinitely till everyone understands it. Because up until now, we've had a draw, basically. Would you not agree, Adam? I say we see it because it's there. They say, no, it's actually a mirage, and it's come back from behind the curve. But then when the curve that it's come back from starts moving, they're fucked. I just think that's priceless.
Ranty's got it as well. It's an impossibility now because of the limitations of their geometry. Like I said, previously those effects were there. Whilst we can call bullshit on 7/6R, we can't disprove it. It's hard to disprove. But now their geometry requires a level of optical magic to occur that's just actually by their own definitions a contradiction of the definition itself. That it does now become just nonsense that they're trying to paint what the illusion is.
Exactly. It's an impossibility based on the geometry. It's a geometric impossibility. Now, what does that mean? Well, you can't have the physical edge being in a different place because it's got to be physically there for them to extrapolate out things like 7/6R. It's all based on that starting point, the radius. And what was it Anthony said? He was having an argument, I think, over Skype with Ruhif. And Ruhif just said, oh no, you get around this by just changing R. I was like, and Anthony argued back and forth with him. I'm like, no. That's the point you've won. Because the R is the starting point for all this nonsense. You can't just change it. That's what gives you the rest of the maths that goes along with it. The R bit's the only bit they can't change. Because what are they doing by changing it? Well, this will make sense for the way Ben phrased it. Well, they're moving the physical size of the sphere out. In other words, oh yeah, it's still a physical edge, but it's just much, much bigger today. In other words, R's bigger. Well, no. The only reason you've got the R values is because you reversed engineered what the sky did. Made the celestial sphere into an Earth sphere. Well, as soon as you start diddling with R, none of that works anymore. So the whole back engineering is done for a reason, fixed for their model. So no, you can't diddle with R, but once R breaks, i.e. Black Swan Horizon being in the wrong place, proving unequivocally it isn't a physical edge, a geometric impossibility. For a sphere believer, for us, happy days. Finally no longer a draw. Oh, well, it's just a bit more looming. Oh, well, that building's just come back from beyond the Earth curve edge a bit more today because of refraction. Well, no. What about the edge? That's why we've got more dancing on fire. They're all like, oh, well, let's look at the cranes, look, refraction, what else could be happening? It's all bending back from behind the edge. It's like you're all ignoring that there's a horizon way off in the distance that's basically your geometry fucked. But they all ignore it because the only thing they can do is bend light around the edge. So, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to change R or admit that your model's broken. And you can't change R because you're basically inflating the size of your sphere belief. You can't do that. It's got a physical geometry to it. It's supposed to be a physical size. Not, oh, I'll change the size of it today because the weather's changed. But that's the bottom line, isn't it? The size of Earth's sphere would change with the weather. That's basically what it boils down to.
Right, well, once again, thanks for having me on. I'm going to have to go, guys. But take care, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Richard, wait.
He's been trying to duck out for ages. I mean, the only thing had he have said I'd want to talk to him about was the Flat Earth Society stuff. You know, it's like, I was going to ask him while we were in heavy heated debate. It's like, why would you go and ask the Flat Earth Society why NASA are lying? Ask the Flat Earth Society controlled up narrative why NASA have lied to you. Interesting, but nonetheless, that was how it came out.
Richard, when you go, try not to cut yourself on one of those many edges from the sphere. Please, be careful. There are so many. They're everywhere.
Yeah, what are you? Thick are you? What's the problem?
Well, before he goes to Nathan, Adam, did you figure out how much you have to dip his nose per second to go over the curve? Did you figure that out on the SR-71?
0.014 degree rotation per mile, then that would be half a degree a minute. Which when I first got into this, you think, right. So you just kind of think you're tethering to adjust for altitude, but it's not. What that 0.014 mile is a reorientation, if you're on a ball, of the line of gravity. So when you first start off, it's directly down, straight through your spine to the ground. But as you continue, irrespective of maintaining whatever altitude, this rotation happens because the plane is in level flight, and unless there's the reorientation of the plane by nosing down, then this will, if all you do is have level flight and maintain your altitude, you kind of drop a little bit to compensate for the ball. But like I said, this vector that's created from your starting point, it, as you traverse over the ball and just drop your altitude, it changes its orientation because you've not changed your orientation with respect to it. And so that goes at a rate of 0.014 degrees per mile, which doesn't sound a lot, but that's half a degree in a minute. So in 10 minutes, you're going to start to feel your 5 degree angling up. Now that's going to have a consequence on aerodynamics as well, and that can only be corrected, in my opinion, if you downward dip the nose. So it has to go over to reorientate the plane. Planes do not do this. So I don't think the altitude consequences of any significance, because you're going to be doing that naturally in an aerodynamic way. But the consequential change in the orientation of gravity would be the cumulative effect that I think would be the most. Half a degree a minute.
And you would notice that, the pilot would definitely notice that, correct?
Still there, Zinda? 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 Hello? I just run around to find a ball and something that resembles a boat so that Zinda can bugger off. Certainly seems that way. To make my example anyway. Nice to have a responsive panel that gives you lots of feedback as a producer of a show like this. You need to know where you stand, and I thank you all.
Sorry about that, Nathan. I was
It's all good. Should I make my example?
I missed the bit from where I finished talking. Sorry, mate. So I was a bit.
Okay, right, I'm going to stick my camera on and hopefully do a reasonable job of explaining my point. Where's my transition button? There it is. So we've got a ball, and we've got what I'm going to claim is a boat. We're going to take this boat and put it on the ball. So obviously visible for you at this point. Now, when it gets to the point that it is over a certain point, I'm going to look over so I can see my camera and monitor what I'm doing. At this point, oh, you can't see it, the audience can. Just bear with me. So at this point, there is a physical edge of the sphere that is obstructing the boat. So the bottom of the boat can be seen here, and as it travels over the edge of the physical sphere, it is claimed to be on the reality, or in the reality that we face, obstructed by a physical sphere edge. Boat going over the horizon is boat going over a reified sphere edge. So this is the edge that you all deny. Just want to point that out so that people know what I'm talking about when I say, no, you do have a physical edge blocking the bottom of things. Because suddenly that's being denied now we're debunking it. What a shock. I'm done.
The things ballers get us to explain.
Ballers got what?
I said the things ballers get us to explain.
Well, we have to suddenly explain their own religion when it gets beaten. Same with Coriolis. What's that you say? Earth and atmosphere travel as one. Well, that doesn't give you a Coriolis effect. The argument that we're using here, or you're using here to prove we're spinning, is that we've got a Coriolis deviation. Why are we spending endless hours arguing about how you think Earth and atmosphere travel as one, which wouldn't yield that effect? Because ultimately somebody at some point's pointed out that, hold on, we don't have a Coriolis effect. And they've gone, no, we're not supposed to. And that's the same here. Hold on, we don't have boats going over the edge. They just get too small to see. No, we don't have an edge. That's what we get.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
They know the Earth is a ball because everything points at that it's flat.
That's just total nonsense.
Yeah, well, isn't it?
Well, we know it's observably flat, but I've gone beyond the point where I concern myself, for example, with why the government lied to me. I don't know, I don't care. I know they're lying, so let's just not associate myself with that liar anymore as much as possible.
Well, is it easier to
government
manipulate
is
and
not an
control someone
individual.
without knowledge rather than someone with knowledge?
Say that again, sorry.
Who?
The guy in Discord.
Guys, can you repeat that?
Is it easier to control and manipulate someone that doesn't have any knowledge rather than someone that does have knowledge?
Yeah, I would imagine it's much easier to manipulate the ignorant.
Right. But
Exactly.
the problem is that when government is addressed, a government is not a living entity. It is a set of rules, and it's up to the people how they abide by it. It doesn't mean those people need to be informed about every aspect of it. That's a bit of a problem. So a government, why would a government lie? Why a government is basically just a set of rules, and the people that abide by it and follow whatever they're told to do basically within it. So why do individuals lie is a whole nother matter. And do they even lie? You know, even though the government uses lies doesn't mean that everyone in the government is even lies or are liars and informed about it.
Governments want people to be able to repeat information. They don't want knowledgeable. Big difference.
So then again, governments want people to be what? We can't quite make out what you're saying, Adam.
Governments want people to be able to repeat information. If you look at the structure of the education system now, it's not about having knowledgeable people think. It's about the whole system now is set up for repetition of facts. So it's let's say that government want people that are able to recite information. They don't necessarily want knowledgeable people.
Yeah, that's why they put you in a comprehensive school.
Where you have a syllabus. So the things we're challenging, I've put that bit in B, which is a little bit of the PNS wave from the GCSE syllabus. Quite interesting. It probably exemplifies the point quite well, actually. Talking about the PNS waves, and it gives you a reason. By observing how seismic waves are absorbed and refracted, scientists have been able to work out where the properties of the Earth change dramatically. A current understanding of the internal structure of the Earth and the size of the Earth's core is based on these observations. So instead of wanting you to understand that this is just additional nonsense, they want you to state the facts. PNS waves are the reason that the Earth has a core. Okay, so they're teaching you to state facts as opposed to have knowledge and apply that knowledge.
Right. Whereas we've trained ourselves more logically to understand and recognise the fallacy. If P waves and S waves, then Q, and that would be iron core. Iron core because P waves, S waves. And if you can comprehend what they claim to be proof, not the validity of their claim, then you can repeat it. And that's precisely what they train you in school. comprehend this information, be capable of repeating it. If you can, you'll pass.
That's what we fight, isn't it? People coming on are very, very good at repeating that.
Nathan, you hear me?
This afternoon, there's a guy that's got quite a bit of that knowledge. Actually, when he has to actually apply it to his real world, he's got he clearly had a clear contradiction, because he was describing a flat Earth, but he was putting it together because he was taking the Neil deGrasse thing, that big, it doesn't apply. So he was actually agreeing with us that what we're seeing is basically optical effects on a virtually flat surface because it's so big, that denying the position that his model has to take to do so. And it's there.
Yeah, well, the more adept they get at this doublespeak, depending on how much your cognitive programming allows, you'll work out the most appropriate point to flip between the two. So if you have someone like the Rumpus on, they'll be accurately describing how the effects of the atmosphere are bending light on their presupposition of 7/6R. Now, while I've said that quickly to make the point, they would do it like a magician. And half the time nobody even notices that they've substituted an actual atmospheric effect with an effect that's being detailed mathematically based on an R value for a geometric edge that they've got for the sphere that they've inflated in the model, and then bent light around at the rate of 7/6R, because they've just detailed, quite concisely, the actual atmospheric effects. Now this guy, Richard or whatever his name was, when he did it, he's saying, well, no, I understand that actual atmospheric effects would detail the horizon as an not actual place with the limit of my vision, and he feels quite confident in saying so. He just doesn't have an appreciation that his model requires it to be a physical edge, so he says, well, I don't agree with you on that. Now, had he been having a different conversation that's wired cognitively into a different part of his mind, he'll happily go on and on and on about how the edge is blocking the bottom of a boat until you point it out. And then, thankfully, during the live show, you heard that moment in his mind where he's like, oh, those two things, oh no! And what did he do? He chose to defend the globe. Well, that's because the programming runs deep in most people. 99% of us thought we were on a sphere.
So Nathan, this may be a little bit off topic, but a person that is just defending what they've been told, like Richard, right? You wouldn't still consider them mentally held back because they're defending something they've been told. It's not their fault, right?
It is. When I point out that there's two different things, verbally, as I did, one is arbitrary, not actual, the other is physical, and they recognise it by the concessions that they give, but then flip between the two, that type of acrobatics is mentally painful, and often you can hear the exasperation in their voices as they perform these painful cognitive mental gymnastics. Well, that cognitive pain is my version of being held back. Rather than appreciating that these two things are standing in stark opposition to one another, they choose a different route, one that's also got a label, cognitive dissonance. Well, that's a hindrance to your mental processing. So to call them cognitively inferior because they hold two positions that are mutually exclusive at the same time would be accurately described as inferior mentally. And they don't have to like that, but if you're stuck in a realm of cognitive dissonance merely because what they've told you was told to you so many times that you've decided it's true now regardless of any contradictory information, then you're cognitively inferior. As far as I am concerned, that is merely my opinion. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on the Nathan Oakley Nathan Oakley premiering stream on Nathan Oakley channel for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!